folks. Welcome to our usual Thursday afternoon stream. Doing it a little bit differently this week. As you can see, I'm not playing 1000 times Resist, for I have finished it. I have reached credits and seen someone's name quite a few in there, 2 times in there. And that person is Remy, and also Natalie, both from Sunset Visitor, joining me this afternoon to chat about 1000 times Resist. And just, I don't know, we were just talking about Star Trek, so I don't know where this conversation might go. Who knows? We'll see. But I have some screenshots that'll sort of prompt some questions as we go. But we'll sort of get some of the background out of the way. Natalie, who are you? What do you do for Sunset Visitor?
That is such a good question. Who am I? So I am the community manager and social media manager at Sunset Visitor and also a writer. I think I mentioned it on the last stream that my story with 1000 times Resist starts when I reviewed it, and I think it was like the first review that the team
One of the
did.
first reviews.
Yeah.
It's not the I think the first one on the day
Yeah.
of, yeah.
Yeah, because I went to my editor and I was like, this has to be up on embargo. Like, this game is so special. It needs all the attention that it can get. That is me.
Nice. And how about you, Remy?
I am the creative director and founder here at Sunset Visitor. And I also am one of the writers and like a Unity generalist. And, we're a very small team. So like pretty much, whatever.
Many hats.
Yeah. Well, not everything. Like, obviously, we have a great team here, and it's like, but like, say, like, I ordered coffee filters yesterday. So yeah.
No job too small on a small team.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna be chatting about the game. I should introduce myself. Hi, I'm Colin. By the way,
Yeah.
I'm community manager for Silverstring Media. And I've been playing 1000 times Resist since May. May, Natalie, right? Is that correct?
Yes, May. You took a month-long break because PAX happened and things were busy. And Colin took the break like right before. Can we start with spoilers?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, by the way, there will be spoilers for 1000 times Resist in this stream. This is your spoiler warning. I don't have a graphic. This is spoiler warning.
Spoiler warning. But you stopped right before Watcher died, and I was like, "Oh, honey, they got a big storm coming when they're back."
My mic is very quiet. Apparently, let's give that a boost.
Ooh.
Is that better? Am I louder now? That's as loud as OBS will let me go. Maybe I'll just get myself closer to the microphone.
There's like a little
the actual thing on the
dial. The dial.
That would also help.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll give this a shot. Okie dokies. I always just make
Let us
myself
know in the
quieter.
chat if it sounds okay.
Yeah.
We are looking at chat.
Yep. We'll be taking questions from chat as we go as well. And I have my own questions, which I'm going to start with the most prescient question of the time. Once I find our Discord call and I can share the thing I'm trying to share. Where did it go? Oh, I closed it. Classic me. I was like, where did that screenshot go? It's because I closed the window. Let's bring this back to Discord.
Also, Satara on Twitch says, "Thank you so much for making this game. It was my personal game of the year last year, and it means so much to so many of us."
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That means a lot to us as well. It was a long journey to make the game.
Yeah, how long
did
development take, Remy?
Development took 3 years, and from having the whole team to the launch, almost exactly for 3 years, like 2 years and 11 months. And I think I was working on it since March of 2020 or April of 2020.
Wow. Was it
pretty much right after the pandemic?
Yeah. Was it a when was it initially conceived? What was the spark that started this whole journey?
I think it was originally conceived in the pandemic. Like, it's a lot of ideas that I guess that were floating around in prior things that I was working on, that also perhaps got a premature death because of the pandemic. And but I was like working on something else to practice Unity. And then what happened was, like, the circumstances being what they were, it felt wrong to kind of carry something from 2019 onward after all the things that happened. And so reset the whole thing and started a whole new project. And that's what became 1000xRESIST. And it was very much just being like, okay, well, 2019 in March 2020 was 3 months away, but it felt like 10 years away. And so I felt very alienated from, I'm sure many people felt this experience, very alienated from things that were very close to our experience, but it felt so far away. And so that was kind of where the idea of Watcher moving through these communions kind of came from, where, you know, Watcher is alienated from this past and is this kind of like distant observer of the past. But, you know, of course, because of science fiction, the game, their past is our present. So
that's really
yeah.
Yeah, definitely felt, looking at the game through the COVID lens. I mean, yeah, it was a time, it was a time and a half for all of us, that's for sure. And definitely have that sense of almost be like that out of body experience of just sort of watching things happen to us.
I think the moment where I decided to start working or abandon the previous project and start on 1000xRESIST, or what became it, was, and you're Canadian, so you'll know, is when they announced CERB, which is the Canadian Emergency Response Benefit. And, you know, in my mind at the time, it was like, whoa, that, like, to me, turning to my friends, I was like, this to me sounds like universal basic income. And so it really felt like, you know, maybe there was a moment in time, especially in early 2020, where it's like, wow, is this happening while I'm alive? Like, is this, like, all of these things, could it actually go that way? Obviously, here we're sitting in 2025, and no, it did not go that way. But there was a strange moment in time where it felt like that branch of our experience could veer in that direction. And it was also a time where I remember, you know, walking around, and it's like empty out on the streets, and gas prices had fell to like 70 cents per liter in Canada. And you were just like, oh my God, like, what is going on? And is this unprecedented, like, reset that will spawn so many nice things if it kind of keeps going in this direction? But of course, yeah, you know, I say that all granted.
Timeline.
Yeah. I say that granted that, like, you know, obviously it was a very scary time as well, and a lot of people were not having a good time.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I definitely think this is like one of the first like pandemic pieces of media that have been able to come out like fully. Like I feel like the pandemic is kind of like inextricable from this game.
I think so, and I think it was one of those things at the time too. I was like, oh, you know, like, we generally come out of very difficult times, sometimes with really good policy that kind of sticks around, but yeah, I guess it didn't. I guess it didn't go down. But hey, like, for that moment, my imagination was pretty triggered. I was like, okay, well, maybe this is like a big turning point. So
for you, was there a connection of like, they said this thing was not possible, that it couldn't be done, that universal basic income couldn't be done? Was there like, did you in that moment feel that maybe game development was going to be a really hard thing, but it felt more possible as a result?
I think Yeah, I think all of the above. Like, definitely we used, um, or I used Serb, I guess, to fund myself to make the prototype. Um, and I think, if, for example, we did not have Serb during that time, because like we were told literally to stay home and do nothing, um, it would have been, I don't know, it would have been bad, I guess. And so, yeah, yeah.
See, I also had to commend you because
Yeah.
like COVID was like while you were sitting at home making 1000xRESIST, the Peabody Award winning game. I was like leveling a new character in WoW. Like that was my
Well,
May 2020.
hey, that's good though. That's I think the other part of this is that like that was the first time I ever had a nothing to do in 10 years, because like as performing artists we're like always doing something, either writing a grant or like touring or traveling or making the work, and it gets pretty full on all the time. And so I think in 10 years, that was like I remember just being like waking up, it's like, oh, I have nothing to do today. It's like nothing. I played Animal Crossing.
Oh my god, yeah. I think we all did
So,
a lot.
yeah.
Was it scary? Like to not have anything to do? Like how did you
It was a bit of a relief. It was a bit of a relief. It was sad though, because like so many of like we were supposed to tour to like Singapore and Japan and Hong Kong, and we had like a whole Asia tour that was like 2 years in the making. Because those tours, the thing about tours is that you're like organizing them like 2 years ahead of time to do them 2 years later, and there's a lot of stuff involved with that, and the booking the plane tickets is the easiest part. And so the so having all of those kind of like disappear was sad, but for some reason I got over it very quickly.
You are really good with change.
Well, I think this is something that I realize, is that I think change is a desirable thing for me.
What did the what were you supposed to tour for?
It was a work. It was a kind of multimedia experimental performance work, and I actually done it in Toronto in 2019. And yeah, we were just going to do another tour, and it involved like 3 pianists, and we were very excited to do it. And one of my very good friends, who's pianist named Conrad Tao, he was supposed to join us on this tour for the first time, and I was like, oh yeah, Conrad gets to come to Singapore with us and do this, but it wasn't to be. That being said, keeping in touch with the pianists that were working on that project, like we may do something with them in the future.
Yeah, how much would you say any of that performance made its way into 1000xRESIST? Did you even subconsciously be like, I'm going to try to like scavenge what I can and bring it forward?
In that particular performance?
Yeah.
Oh, probably not, because that one was done. There was definitely many things in the works that that kind of lined up. For example, we did a lot of kind of DIY prosumer motion capture for 1000xRESIST, and all of that pipeline was from a different project, and many of the people in that project worked on 1000xRESIST as well. So, and now work at the company, yeah, so like definitely things were being kind of brought over and repurposed. But I guess like, in general, that's kind of how I would say like artistic practice works. And so you kind of always have these things that you have in your back pocket that you want to carry forward somehow.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've had a screenshot of BB.
Oh yeah, no, we've been looking at BBF
for a while. I should probably clarify why I have the screenshot up. Specifically, my hard-hitting question was: Is this whale actually the IKEA whale, the Blahaj,
Okay.
the Blahaj, or is
I
this
can-
some sort
I
of
can-
third
I
party
can-
whale?
I can definitively answer that it is not the IKEA whale. It is its wholly own entity, and that's not only because I voiced it. It's because um, uh, maybe this is funny because like some of the we didn't make every single asset we used in the game, right? For example, like those pillows, for example, we did not buy. Like, we did not like model those pillows. We bought assets to be repurposed and used. And the whale actually is one of these assets. There are a couple of things that have like kind of taken on a life of their own, even though they spawn from like essentially what would be a prop shop, we would say. And the whale is one of them, and
Is the
the
pigeon one?
Zhao's diary is another. No, the pigeon is not.
Okay.
The pigeon came with like, let's put a big pigeon in here
Good,
and let's
okay.
find a pigeon.
Good, I love the pigeon. The pigeon and whale are
Wait,
my two favorite characters.
You totally glossed over something. You voiced the whale?
You didn't know that?
No!
Oh yeah.
Watched this game like 10 times and I didn't know.
Yeah, I cannot provide you absolution. That was me talking to
That's great.
yeah.
Did the
Yeah.
I can't remember. Does the whale have a name, or is it just listed as whale?
It's just whale.
Whale.
Yeah. Do
Yeah.
you have a name for
Not
the
even
whale, Remy?
not even the whale, just whale. No, we didn't have we didn't have an internal name for the whale.
I see it as like Zhao's whale. Like, wait, did Zhao give?
Zhao gave the
Zhao
whale
gave the whale
to
to Iris.
Iris as a birthday present.
Yes, which I'm sure she was very thankful for.
Yeah, it's still there. Yeah.
And also on screen is, other than BBF, is some of the drawings. Who did the sort of kid-like drawings in?
Yeah, so those kid-like drawings are made by art director Koda Yanagawa, and those drawings. Yeah, that's the answer. I guess that's the question.
Was there
They're
ever
so
was there
good.
ever a question of like, should we actually get a kid to do these, or?
No, I mean we already got a kid to do Secretary's voice, and every time I'm reminded, like, actually it's funny. A lot of the previous projects that I had worked on involved some kid in some way, and including the piano project, where we had like a 12-year-old kid on doing these exercises on these piano exercises. But every time I'm like, I can't do it again. I can't do it
Then
again.
you do it again.
And then I do it again, and I'm just like, oh man. Not to say no offense to any of the because like Micah was great, and Micah who voices Secretary. It's just but like this is a long answer to the question of like I was like, I think we should just make those kid drawings ourselves.
So a lot of the game, the cinematography was incredible. So much more than even a lot of regular, like a lot of AAA, even indie. Like you guys took a lot of big swings with perspective, both perspective switches from first person to third person to side scroller to. Was there a top down segment? Did I imagine that?
Isometric.
Yeah. Sort of what is was there any films? Was there any sort of media outside of games that sort of inspired some of these choices?
Yeah, I think sensibility. I it's hard to pin down exactly anything, but like sensibility wise, for sure we're huge Wong Kar-wai fans. So like the work of Christopher Doyle, the cinematographer for a lot of the most big body of Wong Kar-wai works, and also I think at the time there was a lot of use of say like negative space in things like Mr. Robot and other kinds of. It's hard to say like this thing. It's really like this amalgamation of just watching
Yeah,
lots of
there's a lot of
things.
subconscious influences that sort
Yeah,
of blend together.
yeah.
Definitely one of them was Near Automata, right?
Yes, like in terms of game wise, yeah, like near, and specifically, I guess Yoko Taro's like being very playful with control schemes. I think that was those two near games were the games that where I was like, oh my god, that you could do this, and this is a fun thing to do, and like there's been enough video games that you can do this now. Like you couldn't do it before. Like you say, if you did it in the 80s, maybe 90s, you had all these different control schemes. It wouldn't be referencing anything. It would be just kind of its own freestanding thing to a degree. But then, like at this point, there's been enough video game history where it's like when you do a side-scrolling thing, people have like lived memory of playing side-scroller games, and all the side-scroller games they've ever played, like will help you do sense making.
Yeah, there's
if
definitely a
you
lot
do
of,
that.
especially in games. There's a lot of like, you've played it. Like we as developers assume you've played a game before. There's a lot of like unspoken language that we sort
Yeah.
of draw upon and rely upon.
Yeah.
And I definitely felt that the visual language of 1000xRESIST definitely like drew upon a lot of but you didn't draw upon familiar stuff as sort of a crutch for tutorialization. You drew upon a lot of familiar stuff to both like surprise and it's like surprise and delight, but also unnerve, or also like just throw expectations. Like even that as soon I think if you watch any of my videos through my playthrough, it was a lot of time I was like, okay, I finally know what 1000xRESIST is, and then you were like, no, you don't. We're gonna do something completely different.
Literally every single video, I
Yeah.
think you were like, okay, I think I get it now.
And then I was like, no, I don't get it. Never mind.
Yeah, it's a game that never stops surprising you, for sure.
Yeah, I think that so much of that is just us, trying to be playful about all the tools that we have, and just transforming it. And I think a lot of it too is myself and Pinky, one of the other writers, we come from dance and music background. So I studied music composition in university. And when you're dealing with music and dance, there is a degree of abstraction, and so you do variations from an extremely formal place, right? Say like you create variation and surprise from formal elements, and so I think a lot of that is like really in our practice and in hopefully in the game as well, where it's just like, okay, let's see what formal bits that we can like turn around and toss around, and then play out the narrative consequence or the kind of opportunities that would arise from doing that. It's very generative. I know that word now is dirty. It's but a generative to your imagination. When you get to like say usually one of the ways for at least for us out of writer's block, or something akin to writer's block, is that we want to flip around the constraints, and that usually reveals something new to us that we can kind of follow.
That makes sense. So a lot of the time I was playing through the game, especially the early stuff, I kept being like, is this Vancouver? Is this Vancouver? Is this Vancouver? And I was like, is this Vancouver? The thing on screen currently. Was there any sort of like temptation to sort of make any sort of, especially like, I know later in the game there's a character mentions, one of the 50 mentions like being from Edmonton, and the other character was like, what happened to Edmonton was rough, and I was like, Edmonton mention, because like that's not going to happen in any US focused games. So was there any temptation to like make it even more Canadian, or make it more even recognizably Vancouver, or any sort of like iconography like that?
The scene where Watcher is running in chapter 3, like on the water, and there's the city That skyline is very much modeled after the skyline, at least placement of the buildings, and even like a Vancouver House-esque building, which is the like twisty one, modeled after the skyline placement of Vancouver buildings, from looking towards the peninsula from the south, which is the common vantage point at which you would see pictures of Vancouver skyline. In terms of saying like Vancouver itself, there would, like, in our minds, like canonically it was always Vancouver. I don't know why we never was like, oh yeah, Vancouver this, Vancouver that. Like I don't think I have the thing with me, but the Hecky Summer
is
print, yeah,
fan art that we commissioned from Spilled Tea, that was like filled with Vancouver references. Like they're riding the SkyTrain. There's a JJ Bean cup. There's like a Science World ad, and so it's hard to say. I don't know why we didn't really lean further, but like we do know that the generation ship that they're actually in is off the coast of Vancouver. So where do they land? Yeah. Anyways, I should stop.
The stream is largely to listen to you talk.
No. Yeah, no. I. But I should also stop. I shouldn't go further down.
No, rambling is good. Please say more. Actually, yeah. Speaking of that summer print, Lucas from Silverstring grabbed me a signed copy with the Watcher.
Oh yes, we did. We made sure that yeah.
So I'm very excited. He said he's going to mail that to me. Which I also laughed. He and I laughed because we were like, I was like, that was free. They weren't charging, and and it was like, you guys are so like, there was no capitalistic streak at all of like, oh, let's sell this and make some money. You were like, we made a cool thing, we'll give it to folks. So that was very appreciated.
Nice.
God, I love this shot.
I love this shot. It's so good.
I love this shot.
So this is, as you know, a very Shinji-esque.
Yeah. That's immediately Evangelion comes to mind. I also, it doesn't, like, the angle doesn't work, but I always keep thinking of the Megamind meme.
I was literally gonna say Megamind Iris.
Yeah.
Megamyrus. Yeah. Megamyrus.
So a lot of the communions take place in very like stark locations, and very I think I have another further screenshot. Yeah, there's a lot of
I always joke that the one that you just had where Iris, this one is like the Super Smash Brothers Melee Final Destination.
Waiting for the hand to come up, smash. Was a lot of the design of the ship, the ship, which also I learned it was a ship way too late. That was maybe me not following cute clues along, where it was like,
no, we don't tell you it's a ship until chapter 9.
I didn't miss anything. Was a lot of that, was it splitting the difference between like artistic choice and also just like a big stark area is a lot easier to design? Like, where was it? How much was like both practical choice for an indie developer and also artistic choice?
I think to us those are not separated, and I think part of it is like some of our performing arts background, where it's like, I was saying yesterday to somebody, I don't know why, I can't remember. Performing arts budgeting is like trying to rub two $5 bills together to make $50, and so it is very much like learning to be thinking strategically about scope anytime that you do any of this stuff. And so I would say those are like pretty deeply coupled. And after practicing that for a long time, you get used to being like, okay, well, what are the actual creative possibilities of this constraint versus seeing it as a limitation, seeing it as an opportunity of some kind, or like transforming it into an opportunity.
Yeah,
Um,
I would definitely argue the same thing of like there's a black box theater vibe to Thousand Times Resist definitely in certain places, and I would like if somebody wanted to give you $40 million to make a game, they should. But you know the fact that you
I
didn't,
accept.
yeah, the
Yeah,
fact that you didn't, I think you guys used
I'll
the
go on record and say I accept. Sorry,
yeah.
sorry.
No, please. Yeah.
Any publishers.
For the record, Remy, please, Remy would be on board. Um, but yeah, I think you guys you made your limitation strength, which a lot of indie devs either we have to do or
Yeah,
it's sort of a sink or swim situation.
yeah,
And you know, a more an Unreal 5 version of Thousand Times Resist might it's the fidelity for fidelity's sake, and you almost sort of lose something in the translation. I wouldn't, it'd be cool to see everything in super high def graphics, but like you definitely lose something with that translation for sure. I mean, we even saw it with the Metal Gear Solid 5 remake of like, yeah, that looks really nice, but like you lose that
yeah.
cinematographic choice of like the color toning and other things that were the limitations in those games. I will not ask about. Well, actually, yeah, I will ask about. Was obviously there's the parallel of Iris using the knife on Zhao, the Zhao clone, and then Watcher stabbing Iris with Secretary Secretary Shard. Was that always like that violence is very intimate. And that was that a sort of like deliberate choice to sort of frame those two things and make them parallels and sort of rhyme them to each other. Was there ever sort of a was there any other point? Was there any other alternative take on this where sort of like, they do have guns. Was there a point where, Watcher just rolled up and shot Iris? Like, is it? Yeah.
How hard is
I would
it
love to see a fan animation of that. But that being, I think one of the things that was very important to us was that violence was given the weight that it kind of generally demands in real life. And so, you obviously have. It's weird when you do the ratings things, right? Like, and you're like, okay, what is possibly not suitable for people above a certain age when you do it. But I think some people may, and some people have mentioned this on social media before, where it's like not much actual violence like may occur, like physical violence may occur, but this game feels violent apparently. And so it's one of these things where it's like,
Yeah, because it's beating the shit out of you emotionally the whole time.
and I think anytime something like physically violent happens, like we wanted to make sure that it was not glorified, that it was often like very quick and surprising in ways that feel real. And I think that was in particular, like say the shootout between Mauve and BBF. Like those were like two shots.
I
right?
literally missed BB getting shot because I was streaming and I glanced at chat the same second that she got shot. So then I was like, Natalie, she dead? I don't know. I missed that entire sequence. I had to go back and watch.
Yeah, like all of that stuff like unfolds like extremely quickly, and it's not, like a drawn out shootout or anything like this. And I think, if you look very closely too, when you see the like BBF shot, and it's just by chance that Mauve didn't get hit. Right? So it's one of these things where I think we try to make sure that those things are given that feel real, as opposed to like glorified or and so and then this way it feels all the violence that we do depict should feel intimate in this way.
I also think there's just like
Oh, sorry, no, go ahead, Natalie.
you can. Oh, just that I think there are also different forms of that violence can take. Like, I just immediately thought of the quote from maybe Studia's Shell, where she says that language is an act of excruciating violence. And so, like, like what Watcher does to Fixer at the beginning, to me feels violent because it's such a deep betrayal of this person that she cared so much about. And I feel like the game is, even though like there's not that much like physical violence, there's still this undercurrent of emotional violence happening all across the game. I don't know if you would agree.
Yeah, no, I mean, I and I the actual like say rhyming of the kitchen knife and the secretary shard. That was, I think, coincidence. It was all born from the cake. our running joke that like the fruit cake is our version of the Godfather oranges.
Oh yeah.
Where it's like anytime you see the cake, you're just like, oh fuck, like something's gonna happen. Which is funny because I don't know if any like Chinese Canadians are, or Chinese diaspora, Asian diaspora are on chat, but like there's like a very specific fruitcake that you can get. That's like kind of spongy, that you just get every birthday, and it's not like I've come to enjoy it now, like, but like
Yeah, there was
like
there was
as a
fruit
kid
cake
it's not an
trauma that
exciting
is-
yeah, it's not an exciting cake to have for your birthday. Right, as a kid, like you go to your friend's house and you're like, oh my god, look at this like IKEA, not IKEA, sorry, like the what's it the Oreo
Oh, yeah.
crusted ice cream cake from Dairy Queen, and you're just like, wow. And then you get your fruitcake and you're just like, I don't know. Every year.
But I feel differently as an adult. about
Yeah,
it.
now I'm just like, where's my fruitcake?
Yeah, like I was looking at the cake and I was like, Iris, you ungrateful queen. That looks so
She just wants
good. Like, what
pizza.
are you
She
talking
just wants-
about?
So I mean,
She just
I
wants
will
pizza.
say that cake, I'm careful not to change the game. I think I've said this somewhere before, where it's like, you don't want to accidentally George Lucas the thing. I'm not judging George Lucas here because, like, as he can do as he
You can judge him a
pleases.
little bit. You're not punching down. When
Yeah,
you judge
George
Yeah.
Lucas is actually in the chat right now. He's very
Yeah,
upset.
he's very upset.
Well,
He's taking his $40
but,
million
like,
and going home.
Yeah, but
He's gonna give you the 40 million. Now he's out.
it's one of those things where, like, you don't, now that it's out in the world and people have played it, and you don't want to mess with that. And if we ever made any changes, I think it would have to be very intentionally announced.
Is
as
there
such,
any?
that is to say, I just want the fruitcake to look more a specific way than it does.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is there any sort of George Lucas-esque like tiny little changes that you were like, if I were to director's cut this, I would go in and like, I would make that fruitcake look better or different. I would make. Is there anything else like small like that sort of?
Yeah, I think I would change the fruitcake. To look a little more specifically, like, it's like a weird thing, like it's interesting when you go look for assets in the prop shop, say, like in the metaphorical prop shop, and you realize what is very easy to get and what is very difficult to get. Right, and what's very easy to get is those, M41A carbine
Yes.
assault rifles.
Guns for
I only know this because I play Counter Strike. That the Jows have, and what's really hard is to find that specific type of fruitcake.
The fruitcake was
And,
a
like,
custom model. It wasn't a.
It was on the task list to do. It's like, let's model a new fruitcake, but then, like, of course, that was a very quick thing to fall away in terms of priority.
That kind of happens.
Yeah.
That's game development.
Satora says, so you're saying 1000xRESIST was created as a way of pushing back against a birthday fruitcake trauma.
Yeah, well, it could be one of these things. Even though I think we should do a Saint Germain. That's one of these people that would make the fruitcake here in Vancouver. Cross collaboration.
Right. And we have George Lucas in the chat. Drew says, I'm George Lucas and I'm changing the Death Star explosion again because of the stream.
Yeah. Yes. It's my fault.
Yeah, he does it. He does all his changes in retaliation, not as.
Yeah.
He's just like, oh,
Yeah,
did someone
yeah,
ask me about Han Solo again? Now how is Han Solo suits third? Whatever. I added another character.
yeah.
Oh, Sace, where's my? Yes, I also just love that the pigeon is here in this scene. As soon as I saw him in the distant rooftop, what's it say?
I'm so glad that. I mean, there's so many of these things we add to the game where at the times like, is anybody gonna ever notice that? And then the answer is yes.
Yes.
Like if you're, and I think we're very lucky for this. But like also, it's like all of these, almost like many of the things that we put in there.
I mean, there's
have been
still
picked out.
secrets that people haven't found, right?
Secrets in the sense of
Like connecting dots together.
yeah. I think so. But some of them I've totally forgotten until people bring them up, and I'm like, oh my god.
Wow,
I forgot
crazy! I
about
did that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just at the time the very specific one is the number of times Watcher did the communions. Like I remember, I had resisted the moment there where you had to say 1,000 again. So I was like, okay, we can't say 1,000. So like, what's what number can we use? And I could make up a number, or I could search for some degree of significant number. And I think I used the number of the flight number between, which is CX. Can't remember the number actually now, but the flight between Hong Kong and Vancouver. But I had completely forgotten about that until somebody brought that. So,
what are they drinking? What is bartender serving them? Like,
so they're not drinking
like
anything. No, so like this is one of those things where, obviously we've had some great fan drinks, and but really what's happening is that they're just like injecting liquid into their system for nutrition. It's like an IV drip, nutrition drip. But I think, as the game, as you see in the game, the bartender gets experimental with the types of things that you get injected with, and it can give you a buzz, or it can. I'd always imagine like, of course, I haven't tried this. I want to say, I haven't tried doing this myself, but it would be interesting to imagine that you could inject some kind of something, and eventually you would taste it somehow, or it would trigger enough response. So very much playing with the tasting notes of the types of chemicals you might have to inject to kind of like taste it in your mouth. And so a real bartender pioneer in this way. Yeah.
We have a question.
If only you could.
Oh, sorry, Natalie. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if only you could do that with natural wine.
It was last night. We went to an indie event last night, and one of the people there was their name is Chase, and they're kind of they're not kind of, they are an experimental like drinks maker. They make cocktails. Yeah, and they made an Inside Sunrise for Vancouver Game Garden, and I'm obsessed with natural wine, which I won't say more about, but like the we had talked about what would be like a really good wine collaboration, and I'm like, oh, it should be something that's extremely saline, tastes like the ocean. It could be some white wine that's like where the grapes are grown really close to a salty ocean of some kind. But anyways, that's all.
Yeah. We have a question from chat from Satara. The voice acting in the game is very subtle. Nido commented at Game Garden that it was conversational. What was the decision-making process to go for such a subdued style of dialogue voice acting, as I've never seen it in other games?
I think a lot of it is so much personal tastes for us, in that but then that like it results in some degree of utility, where it's like, if it kind of has like, it's triangulated, where you have as a writer, you write a line of dialogue and then you have somebody say it. But as you do that more often, you start to lean on the performer a little bit more. And in general, for us, the biggest thing is to avoid unisons, like formal unisons, like in that if the line has been written in a way where it can only be said in one way, we should probably change the way that line is written. Because if you have a line that says "I'm angry" and someone angrily says "I'm angry," you're like, oh, okay, well, that's
Subtext is for coward.
well, and it's like it itself is carries it's monophonic, I would say, like to borrow and so we wanted to allow the performers to interpret the lines as well as they're saying it, and then sometimes we get some really surprising results. But the subduedness is very much this, where it's like you don't want the performance to tell you how to feel as well, in the same way that you don't want the line to prescribe how it can be delivered. And all these combined, it's you create a little space for you to play. And yeah, I think that was our kind of personal like taste in terms of where we wanted to move the voiceover.
That makes sense. Did any of the script change when you got to the voice recording sessions? Like as soon as?
Oh yeah, all the time. We would be rewriting the lines while they were in the booth. So, and then we would reapply it in the game, or we'd be cutting lines and stuff like this. We got we got better at it, I guess, because we knew the performance. We recorded over like a period of like 2 years or whatever. So we got to really know the performers.
Did you?
And so we got better at writing for them.
Did you record in order of the game, or did you go out of order? Like, were you recording? Like,
we recorded we recorded in the not chronological order of like say canon, but like we recorded in the order in which you experienced the game. Yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd love to.
I should add that somebody like Nee, who played Watcher, didn't know that Watcher was going to die until chapter. And she found it the same way everybody else did, I guess. Well, in that order. So
what was her reaction?
I mean, it's like, Remy, why did you? No, but I think she understood why, I think that it was good because, like, she was recording Watcher without that knowledge, and nobody knows they're gonna, I mean, relatively so, right? So I think her performance in Chapter 7 and other really benefited from the fact that the
emotions were fresh.
Yeah, didn't know that it was actually what was going to happen next, or any of the performers, I guess.
What inspired some of the outfit choices for the sisters and for the clones? Because this is when I first started playing, this is a very specific reference, but my cat fountain that I owned for my small cats, they have a little filter in it, and it's a little like circle white thing, and it looks some of these suits. I'm like, it has my little cat fountain filter all over them. But what? Because these people have definitely like the suits are cool, the masks are amazing. Sort of like what informed? Was it practical choice of like what would these suits look like for? If you're living in this ship under the ocean for X amount of years, or was it more like, especially because as soon as Iris takes over, she's like black heels, like I am work girl. Like how much was it? Was like, also did Iris design them? Where did these previously designed, and Iris just like inherited them? Like where did these come from?
It was definitely. We were thinking fashion first in these ways. when we were like designing them, and much of it like we kind of let Kodai run with some of these designs, and with the thought that like yes, some of these, like I think if you look at Fixer's helmet, it has similarities to the 50s helmet. And so a lot of this material is like slowly repurposed over time, and then of course they do. But they, of course they do like a pretty good job at repurposing it, right? They don't, it's not...
Who's the fashion designer
yeah.
the Orchard?
So yeah, maybe we should have had
A designer function.
yeah, like a designer function where there's a shell that is actually trying to like really stressed out.
Some stressed out shell like trying to make suits.
Just kind of like trying to make
the
suits.
Red Guard
and,
is like, we need more. Fascist stormtrooper suits.
That's like truly like much of the thinking about like how you write for these shells. And you're just like, yeah, what would really stress out one of these shells? And it's like, oh yeah, okay. Well, if one of these shells was, assigned to design the next, well, like, because I think, like the new Fixers, say, design, which we never saw because she died before she could become
as pictured.
Yes,
as pictured currently.
And so the 1000 times resist on brand version of this is that the shell, the designer shell, would have been very stressed about it, and then had an epiphany about what to do, and then actually did a really good job, and then she would be standing next to the dead body holding whatever good version of it is, and she'd be like, oh shit, like man,
stayed up all night trying to get this Fixer outfit done.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Yeah.
It's pretty dark though, because then like the idea of repurposing fabric from like dead bodies.
Yeah.
Everything in 1000 times resist has a tinge of darkness.
Yeah, again, I feel like if we're imagining the seamstress shell of like being like, okay, we'll just burn the sisters, and she's like, can we not? Like, can we please grab their outfit at least?
Yeah. Like they keep accidentally incinerating some of the stuff I got to work with. Like it gets worse year over year.
God.
Yeah.
Should be like shooter, looter, shell. She's like getting the loot from the bodies, which is essentially the fabric.
Oh yeah, somebody whose job is to get them. Oh god.
That's quite dark.
So Iris and Watcher and Principal all have glasses, and other sisters don't. Was that a like? Is that a like some sisters? There are definitely differentiations through the cloning process, but was it like some of them are still cursed with bad eyesight? Like is Watcher just wearing glasses because she's like they look dope as hell, and these are just like there's no actual lenses in them? Like, what's the?
Now, considering everyone in this room, I think it's clearly because wearing glasses is cunty.
I think. We did make a thing about eyesight, where, you have youngest, not being able to play. One of the reasons not being able to play hide and seek very well was that she actually had the wrong prescription, and I think that's a little bit of a thing that we mentioned throughout the game, that like, oh yeah, this cloning process is imperfect, and we're starting to see genetic variation or outcomes that are different, that are getting further and further apart. So that is perhaps a canonical reason for that, but also because glasses are cool.
Also, I mean, between the two of us, I think we accept that answer for obvious reasons.
Bayonetta has glasses, and I think we should follow in her footsteps as much as possible.
Yeah, fair and valid. I just liked Nay. I have this screenshot.
Yeah.
No further questions.
What was the thought process behind that?
Oh, it was a joke. It was,
So I remember I really, really enjoyed this sequence because this is one of the first times that you sort of draw the curtain back on the occupants and their whole perspective and the reasoning why. Was there sort of any was there any hesitation about going too deep on the occupants? Did you want them to sort of be, because they're sort of this unknowable, alien force that we can't even, they make a human form just so that we can comprehend them. Did you ever like feel like you went too far in explaining them and felt you had to pull back, or did you actually want to go deeper and sort of explore and sort of didn't get a chance to?
I think we had to be very careful, that they're we always wanted to have a sense of mystery to them, and then also to be careful, especially in this chapter 4, right? Because we knew at this point, I think it was clear to us at this point, there's maybe 6 more chapters left. That, we obviously can't go all in on the information. But it was always very much that we wanted the player to be guessing and to be not knowing and not to get the full picture. And even for us to not have the full picture in this way, so that we can more properly communicate that feeling of not knowing what some of this stuff is.
Did you ever want the occupants to be sort of seen by the player as like a sympathetic, because they don't understand us, and because like with the box stuff and the disease and the the information about them having to leave their own home, was there did you want them to not be seen as the villain necessarily, as sort of just a force of nature instead?
Yeah, we did want them to seem like a force of nature, and I also think that they were kind of weird. Like in one of the chapter 4 scenes, you see a bunch of them like suntanning on like buildings and stuff like this.
With no sun.
With no sun, just like, I don't know. The thought of it is that they're just enjoying having a body of some kind, and I think again, it was just to make sure that we didn't want to cast them as like hardcore villains or anything like this. And I think in general, we didn't want to cast anybody in the game as that. And anytime, we were very careful anytime there was something where, especially when it came to some of the provisional government stuff, right? Like we didn't want it to feel, if it was too bent a specific way, it wouldn't feel as maybe real as it could. Because always there's especially if they're trying to now govern to some degree, they may be successful at some things and not at others, and for very different reasons than pure like at vibes, right?
That makes sense. It definitely comes up, like even when I was doing my ending and sort of choosing who to turn lights on and not turn lights on for. Natalie can confirm that I sort of struggled with a few characters. Mauve, no, but Principal,
no.
and
Jupiter, if you're in the chat, I'm so
and Knower, and a lot of characters do make bad decisions with bad information, and doing
pretty much every character except Iris.
Yeah, Iris is perfect. Iris made no mistakes.
Iris is perfect.
Actually, speaking about Iris, one of the big parallels in the game is her mother and her relationship with her mother, and then Iris and her relationship with the sisters, the clones. Was there ever sort of I guess, especially Remy, to speak about gender briefly, was there ever a concern that you didn't think people were going to connect with that, especially guy players, especially the mother and the sister relationship? I loved it, but was there ever a concern that that there might be a disconnect there because of lack of lived experience?
I mean, like I think consistently, I always want to say in these things, it's like, on paper, the game shouldn't exist. Like if you like create a list of objective facts about the game and put it on a piece of paper and like show, I don't know, a stereotypical executive of the time, it would be like, oh yeah, everybody is not white. Mostly in this game, everybody is.
There's also,
You know,
like,
it's
two
about
guys. It's
mothers and
like,
daughters.
it's
Yeah, there's like.
it's Johnson
It's
and
like
Dad.
2 guys. Yeah, Johnson and Dad.
And so, like, you know, I think we, in terms of concern, I suppose, just an acknowledgement of, like, even when we were making the game, it was like, oh geez, like, you know, on paper, this thing would be very hard to clear, so to speak. But I think in the making of it, we weren't really thinking about that. Yeah.
And it's just one of the aspects of the game that makes it so refreshing. Like when I played 1000xRESIST, I remember being disillusioned with games by that point. A combination of many things, like playing so many for work as a consultant and working on them in PR and stuff like that. So when the game came along, I was like, oh my god, this is like the first game that I've ever played where like every single character practically is a woman. And there are like 2 main characters, Johnson and Dad, who doesn't even got a name. And I've watched so many fucking things where it's just all men and one token woman. And it's like, we need this. We need the opposite. We need to right some wrongs here. So for me, it was like, and when I pitch it to especially like my friends who are women, I'm like, listen, there's like just 2 guys in the game. Everyone else is a woman, and it's so gay.
That's a
like,
selling point.
Oh!
Yeah, like,
And
oh,
like, I'll show
yes,
you-
women, yes, women gay, yes, they were, yeah, I mean, amazing.
Yeah, because I'll pitch like the story. I'll be like, it's about like a pandemic and occupants and these clones. And they're like, oh, that seems really interesting. And I'm like, yeah, and also almost everyone is a woman and everyone's like really fucking gay. And they're like, oh, shit.
Actually, on that same the token of like worrying about, he says like, there's a lot of things as you said, Remy, too. Like, there's a lot of things on the face of this game that would alienate a regular video gamer. It's a lot of talking and walking. It's a lot of women. It's a lot of it's a lot of like subtle subtext romance. It's a lot of like Asian diaspora and immigrant experience. There's a lot on the tin that sells for very specific crowds, but maybe not for the mainstream one. And personally, that's one of the reasons I loved it, is because it does something so different. But was there ever sort of a especially in the romance section, was there, or in that sort of thing, was there ever a temptation to make some of that subtext text? Because both Watcher and Fixer's relationship, or Iris and Zhao's relationship, it's complicated, and there's definitely subtext there. But did you ever want to be like, what, fuck it, they were lovers, we're moving on?
Yeah. I think we thought we had done that already, but I think also specifically we thought we had did that, but we wanted to preserve like the power of it, and the tension of it comes from it remaining unsaid in these ways. But to the point of that, even though it was unsaid, we thought it was like pretty obvious what was going on. So I think there was a moment very early in the beginning of the game where we were like, oh, because there's like many implications to that, or many, and so like I was like, oh, can we do that? And then, but I think it's returning to it's like, honestly, if we were try to think about the scenario which they would be in, it would probably turn out that way. So no doubt. So
you stick up a bunch of hot women in a bunker, like, I'm sure they're not just gonna be pals.
Yeah, I also think that it's like character specific. Like Iris was a bitch to Zhao, and then Fixer is just not good with words. And so you have someone like Watcher, who I think she's more reserved, she's less adventurous. And so like maybe between them, Watcher might have wanted Fixer to make the move, but Fixer's not good with words, so then they're just kind of stuck at this situationship
The amount I
standstill.
was like wanted to shake my screen in anger when Fixer refused to go talk to Watcher at the end, like because so much was subtext or wasn't just like, you know, we didn't see, you know, Watcher and Fixer making out in a background at some point, while Secretary is trying to explain something, but you know, that made that scene more powerful because the entire game I was like, kiss already. And then but then the opportunity to even talk was she missed, so I was like, nah, but it worked. It was powerful because of that reason.
There's so much that goes unsaid, and like I have a question that I always ask Remy, and that I will get him to answer one day. He says no, but I'm gonna make it happen one day. It's in chapter 3 where you have a conversation between Watcher and Fixer in front of the shrine after the occupant event happens, and she's like, and Watcher tells Fixer, "Do you want me to bind you again?" And so like I keep asking Remy, I'm like, "What is?" He's like, "It means whatever you want it to be." And I was like, "No."
I agree
Having
with the
neutral
chat, by the
pose
way.
here.
Sorry, what?
I'm just having a very neutral.
Neutral
pose, yeah.
expression to not confirm anything.
Yeah, no confirmations. Yes, the my from Ensign, my Fixer was diabolical. That line from Watcher was just, that felt like getting stabbed with the Secretary shard. Like,
Yes.
that was
Yeah.
the fruitcake knife to the heart.
That would have been easier, getting stabbed by the Secretary shard than
God,
listening
yeah.
to it. And the like delicacy that Nee conveys with my Fixer, like
God.
so good.
I'm gonna go through my screenshots and see what else gets prompted. Hi, Joe. Boop ba doop ba doop boop boop. Oh yes, I do enjoy. I to use your word, Natalie, I do love how cunty Iris is, especially to Johnson constantly. Was there ever? Actually, yeah, that's sort of a good question. If this I had to read. I didn't actually. I missed this in game. It was the Bach that sort of threw everything off for the occupants that caused the disease. And was there ever a temptation to make that more explicit, or was it always Bach, or was there a point where Johnson was like, we're gonna play Britney Spears' Toxic? This is a classic, like. Yeah. Tune that you'll enjoy.
The Futurama version of it is that they tried to play I think it's funny. Part of it was no, it was never any other composer. Sometimes I feel bad it's Bach, but Bach sits at like a very nice resting point between, tuning systems, I suppose. And what some of these pieces were written for, and then now, of course, we play them on the modern piano as we know them, and they sound different now than they did before, and also just like, it's a little bit of those like the golden discs. They sent out, and just where it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna put some classical music on this thing because like that's the pinnacle of music, and so this is a pretty direct like anti-Western music colonial thing where it's just like at least the expression of this line, obviously she's just pissed, right? But like
the intention.
Like in so many ways, I think writing Iris is so fun because it's really just channeling your inner anger of all of these things in kind of chaotic directions, and she just is expressing these things in these chaotic directions, right? So it gets to become this embodied vessel for it a little bit. And because Johnson's trying to make a plea here.
Yeah, that's true.
So I will. I think this is an Easter egg. Like I'm ready to be like, okay, I can reveal this Easter egg that like nobody has caught. I think I might have done it once via text, but like this particular conversation, going back to Star Trek. So there's a little bit of a reference thing going on here, that only like seemingly not enough hardcore Trekkies have played the game. I guess I don't know to have caught, but what Johnson says in this conversation leading up to this "fuck Bach and fuck you" line is almost verbatim what Picard says to Tasha Yar in yesterday's Enterprise. And so when Picard is like trying to fill in Tasha, basically they're asking Tasha Yar to go back with the Enterprise C through the anomaly so that blah 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 blah, and Picard knows it's going to be a bad time, and Picard goes and makes a plea and says, things are going pretty badly, much worse than is commonly known, or something like this. And Tasha Yar is roused to make a sacrifice. And so the joke here of this scene, I guess, is that Iris is just like, fuck you. Fuck Bach and fuck you. As well. But I guess that's one dimension of the scene that I always see as a fun joke.
That's amazing.
But yeah.
That is amazing. We have 2 questions from chat. One is I'll go in opposite order because I think one's easier to answer than the other. Satara asks, I want to know who wrote that sick rap the kid in the classroom does.
Oh yeah, so that was one of our writers here, and I believe it was Connor who did it. Like it was like riffing on the bad kids stay, the good kids go line. But then the rap itself was born entirely by that performer. Like the way that it's rapped. Like I think Chirag is the performer who plays that kid, and he came in and I think he had like done it at home or something and just started doing it. We
so like, you did not give the direction sound like you're crying.
Oh, I did. I did. That yeah, no, I did. That was one thing I added. Okay. I was like, okay, do that again, but then like do it like as
right.
Amazing.
As if you're trying to cry or like you're fighting back, that you're very sad.
And the other question is, was there any parts or moments which are particularly challenging or easy to write?
I think chapter 6 kind of was a flurry. It was very quick, even though it was one of the longer chapters. And I think part of it was just so much. I think of chapter 6. I think I was writing in a day or two, or at least all of the Old Town stuff leading up to the. I was going to say a name that only internally we know what it is, but like up to the second part of chapter 6, I suppose. And I think so much of it was just like a release of energy of being like, oh, we finally got to this place that we wanted to get to, which was to do the change of protagonist, the time skip, the whole kind of there's more game feeling, the feeling of there's more game than you thought there would be, and then all bets are off kind of situation. And so like this part of chapter 6 I think came very quickly and was very fun to do. And I think so much of the stuff that actually spawned from like that affected the game like spawned very quickly in writing this, like in terms of those people who were like very much just riffing quickly on like okay, well, what would it be like in that after that time skip, and having those sisters who are like still worshiping Iris, having the kind of like miscellaneous like underground mafia like thing with Chris and friends, and then the Red Guard, of course. The Red Guard, we knew But even the detail of the Red Guard was where they're anonymized was, I think, pretty quickly improvised. So.
Neat. And what about the other?
And then the hard part.
Yeah, the other side of that.
Hard part was the chapters 8 and 10 were really brutal to write, I think, because chapter 8. So I mean, one of the reasons is that after chapter 7, because we were making these sequentially, we did some playtests with chapter 7, and then people were like, "Oh my god, that chapter was crazy," and we're like, "Oh really?" We were all like that. We didn't know that, or like we were like, "Oh cool, that's great." But then that kind of put us in a, we're always trying to track what the audience is feeling at the end of any given chapter to guide us, possibly towards different directions. And then after chapter 7, we were like, "Oh shoot, like that's good that people like that chapter, but we didn't know that it would put people in this specific place." And so chapter 8 was a real trying to fly in the face of that particular catharsis, and kind of deal with the fallout of it as realistically as possible. But 8, 9, and 10 is like the beginning of the last parts of the game. And usually, and I think this is something, formally that we did very purposely. It's like usually at this part of the game, or part of it, like if it was like a 3-act film thing, this is where you would start to really ramp up. But, we actively, purposely were like, no, we're not. You're stuck on this train with, with these sisters, and we're gonna have to play the fallout of this whole relation, like them, because you actually haven't had a lot of time experiencing them interacting with each other actually, throughout the game. I think it's the end of chapter 7, then chapter 8, 9, and 10 are the only time that you actually see the sisters interacting with each other. Up until that point, they don't really talk to each other. You don't see them. It may feel like they do, but they don't. It's usually Watcher talking to one of them. And so to try to be honest about what that would be, we felt like we had to resist the urge to do the kind of ramp up that you might do. But we like, personally, and also I think as a company, we like that kind of like odd form, where it like does go turn in a direction that you don't expect, as opposed to, from a felt place, many people I'm sure have so much felt expectation or built-in behavior around that time that things would start to ramp up towards, but instead it's like a hospice thing. So yeah,
that makes sense. Also, I'm seeing in chat I'm still quiet, which, I mean, I'll probably fix this in post. When I post the archive, I can just boost my audio, because for some reason this is my volume control is doing nothing to my volume. Thanks, OBS. That's fine. I'll boost this in post. Or I'll just speak louder. Hello. I'll just speak much louder into my microphone. We are looking at Old Town currently. Was there? I drew the conclusion that Old Town, because in the chapter with the 50, one of the characters mentions that there are sort of simulated cities so that they created so that that people can feel normal or like enjoy themselves or whatever. Is Old Town one of those?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, kind of like a Chinatown themed, Asia Town themed.
Just Asia Town.
One of these. Yeah.
I spent a while on stream Google translating signs because I was tempted to see what had been written. Was there? Because a lot of these signs are very specific to like this period of time. This with the sisters and the miscellaneous and stuff. Was there? Yeah, how much, like, was there temptation to like go deep and be like, we need to make, like, was there a checklist of like, we got to make sure we have like a hairdresser or a bar or a library or like, or is it more just because it's big and neon and sort of chaotic? Was it sort of just like, we'll throw a bunch of signs in there and hopefully no one reads them?
Well, I think Kodai got to make a bunch of those signs. So I think Kodai put some random stuff in there that I think, and then some of these signs are more like this. Like you do see these types of signs in Hong Kong, and then of course there's like the canonical in-world ones where it's just like the one that's I think it's like in the corner there, top corner, but you can't see it. It's like obscured. One that's like, inject using one of those injectors that you see all the time.
Oh,
yeah, like up there, that red one. Yeah, so there's like a mixture of all of those things, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, this whole chapter I was very entertained by all the signs. Shiny
Nice.
lights. The so the time jump is sort of world building catnip because you get to sort of have your cake and have your fruit cake and eat it too. In terms of like being able to see the results of some of the choices you made in the story. Was there anything that you didn't get to explore with the time jump that you were like, I would have loved to see what happened to Nowhere's library, what happened to, what we see a little bit of that with the provisional government stuff, but yeah, is there any sort of aspect before the time jump that you didn't get to explore?
Before,
Yeah.
like in the first half of the game.
Yeah, I guess anything from the you didn't take forward. Yeah.
Oh, trying to think. I'm sure there was things, I might have forgotten them at this point.
Does the because we obviously with the provisional government we have the play, the sort of the theater troupe through line.
Yeah. I see the through lines that would go through. I mean, I think we almost tried to address all of them. We have this like big map of like, okay, what shells were around in the first half and how did they live through chapter 4, and then who did they become? Like the understudy shell becomes the minister of culture, and so I think we got to close the loop on most of those things. There were some of the there are some shells that I wish we got to do. There's always more shell ideas, it's like and then you get to carry them through the whole thing where it's like if they did survive, what did they become in the post? What would happen to the designer shell? For example, if they had survived into the provisional government where they're like, oh, they like in that version of it, it would have been just like, oh, they had such a hard time. They had to make some creative, like fashionable fixer outfit for every new fixer, and it had to be better than the last one or just as good, but it was coming out of nowhere. And then when it comes to the provisional government, and they're suffering and they don't want to do it, and then when it comes to provisional government, their wish is granted, and they know exactly what to make all the time, and then they'll be like, my life sucks still.
Was there any point, speaking of the Red Guard too, was there any point like my headcanon is that Nowhere hated having to change her outfit. She was purple all the way through.
That's a good headcanon. Yeah. Sorry, say that. Yeah.
Oh yes. No, I lost my train of thought. I just thought.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if we had, it's hard to say, what we would have done if we had more time, but like there's like open things where it's like, yeah, it would have been great to see maybe some more Knower stuff, and maybe some more principal stuff even before. But like I think it's nice that she, like, again, it's like in retrospect you're like, yeah, it's kind of nice you see principal for the first time in the play, in the second, and yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say, but I agree with you that I think Nowhere hates wearing the red, and is purple all the way.
Was that a purposeful design choice for Nowhere to be that mix of red and blue, because she's playing both sides?
Oh, I didn't think about that way before, but that's great. Honestly, we really did not think about that. Like we didn't make the connection.
That was unconscious choice.
But-
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I think we're coming up at close to end of our time here. We've been going for already. I was like, it will be an hour. We're already at an hour and a half, because chatting is too fun. I just wanted to point out this scene because finally someone gave someone a hug. Like I was like, these poor characters need a hug. And finally someone hugged Blue.
But she's giving her a hug, but at the same time she's whispering instructions to like send her to her death.
Yeah, also that. Yeah, even the moments of levity, you're like, There's sadness born from this. Was it a principal mandate that all the Jows dress like teenage Jow? Cool.
Yeah.
Of course. Principal.
The scene is so fucking funny. I love it. And
The voice actors had such a fun time doing this.
You can tell they really had fun.
Also,
Why?
I just want to say that people may not know this, but like Agnes, who plays Iris, who did such an amazing job, and like I feel like her voice just has something about it that makes it Iris and cements it as Iris. She is the most hilarious person. One of the most hilarious people in the cast. Like, she's hilarious. And she actually mostly plays, in the community, as far as up until like when we hired her to do this. She mostly played more like comedic roles, I think. And more lighter roles. But
This suited her so well.
But yeah, so it's like, but this is always the thing. Like comedy's hard to do, and so, she did a really good job as Iris. But then, the moment that we were like, all right, let's do this funny thing. It's like
She had the training that she
she
needed.
was so good. She was so funny.
And one day, when they are ready. And for me, like the funniest part is like right before the play where you talk to not Iris and not Watcher.
Oh, yeah.
Like I watched playthrough, like I watched so many playthroughs of this game, and like I get so sad if the person doesn't laugh because I'm there in the background like like that's so funny. Oh my god. So I think they did so well. Both Dee and Iris's voice actor did such a good job with introducing that levity and that comedy.
And also Sunny, who played Zhao this whole day. They all got to be funny in Chapter 6, which is kind of ironic, like, because like bad things happen in Chapter 6, and it's like, whiplash for the player a little bit for all the time jump, but I think all the performers got to be funny, to a degree at last, and it's like, Sunny got to be all the different Zhaos.
Yeah.
And also delivered one of the most hilarious line readings in my opinion, which is like a very dark one, where Cherry just before Blue gets ready to watch the play, Cherry's like, "Oh yeah, like I've never died before," and Sunny just does such a good reading of that always cracks me up.
The also staring at the screenshot. So the play had a secretary type. One of the
Vice.
And so like, did Principal let them use their her? She like volunteered to be like, oh yeah, you can use my little drone boy.
I think my headcanon of this is that Vice and then Principal and Zhao Prime are all in the writer's room for this play.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. It's too bad. Okay, actually, one of the things I wish we got to spend more time with Vice. Yeah. It was unfortunately. Yeah, then the third one, we had some plans. The third one does not have a name on purpose. Yeah.
Oh, on purpose.
Yeah.
Does Vice have the same relationship with Principal that Secretary had with Watcher?
I think it's a very different one. But I think both Principal and Watcher, I think what's consistent is that I'm sure Principal would be a little cruel to Vice, and same with Watcher and Secretary. But I think Vice is a very different entity that I wish we got to dig into more.
There's the true villain.
Because it would be
Vice.
Yeah, it could be really funny. I think because the joke was this is another behind the scenes joke. I guess we got Secretary was played by like a young boy, and at this point he was a teenager. But Vice, we cast a very recognized and celebrated Asian Canadian playwright to voice Vice, who's won the Governor General's Award in Canada for a play. And I remember pitching it to him. I was like, "Hey, do you want to say some bad lines?" And
Such a deep voice.
oh yeah. And so that is only like a community in joke. Like nobody would. Yeah, and the joke was always just like, "Oh yeah, he was reading. He's like these lines are horrible," and I was like, "Oh what? I thought they were just as good as the ones that you write." But anyways,
The speaking of Principal and Vice as well so there's sort of this through line through the game of having school sort of Iris be going straight from school to being a god basically. Was it purposeful to take a lot of that school imagery and wording? Like, was Principal named because of principals in schools? Like, was that a conscious decision to sort of keep that frame of reference for Iris and that she used going forward?
yeah, I think so. And also if you think about the school, it's a lot like the orchard. So, and all the students have some
Uniform.
yeah, like they all have that, and then there's like through lines with some students and their concerns. And in many ways the students are kind of like the proto shells of the so yeah, it was to kind of keep it in this. Yeah.
Yeah, this is great. I love when you do a dialogue choices sometimes of just like, it's not actually a choice. We're just gonna give you this fun option here. Do you get any data on what people choose? Do you have that? No. Okay.
No, yeah.
I would love to see a Telltale style, like how many people chose press
Yeah.
for her.
Yeah.
Secretary will remember that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Jerry. When the choice, when I realized the whole thing was a communion up to a certain point, I was like, this is an M. Night Shyamalan style twist that is not M. Shyamalan style at all, because it actually is pulled off and very elegantly and not is ham-fisted into the game. Was that planned? Like, did you like devilishly like 3 a.m. be like, ha ha ha, it's been a communion the whole time? Or was that sort of, you worked backwards from it?
Planned.
Yeah.
That was planned, I think, from some of the earliest outlines on our end at the beginning. Yeah, that was planned because we always... The Chapter 6 character swap was also always planned. And... Yes, I guess TLDR was it was planned. And one of the things that was hard about that was it gave some diegetic reasoning too about how from the beginning of the game you actually can't change anything because it already happened. A bunch of other stuff was considered, I think. Yeah,
that makes sense.
But yeah.
So obviously we see Secretary with Watcher and we see Vice with Principal, but there is a point where all three of them are with Iris. Is Secretary still like Secretary when they were with Iris? Was Vice still like Vice, or was Vice and Secretary shaped by the sisters they were with? I'm sort of imagining like a if you remember the two Muppets from that sit in the booth and comment angrily on things and make the bad jokes. I'm imagining that's this relationship they have with Iris, where they all just sort of judged things that Iris did very grumpily. But yeah, what was Iris's relationship with the what is the actual word for them?
Familiars.
The familiars. Okay.
Yeah. This one I'm going to refrain from answering. I'm sorry.
Nope, that's fair. I hit one.
It took way longer than I thought it would.
I found a nope. I love this shot. That's just beautiful. That's just also Iris choosing. Was Iris choosing to get rid of the 50? Was that a choice born of anger, like in a very moment, and was there regret there, or did Iris sort of do this? Was it like pre-planned and Iris had thought about it for a really long time?
I think it was. I definitely think she, I guess to a degree before the occupants got involved. Like I don't know if there was any way she could plan it, but she would probably want it. But I do think that afterwards she was a little bit like.
Maybe I shouldn't have done that. Oops.
Yeah. Because I think you see that in like just the scene with her talking to the picture chow with the cake.
Yeah.
And it was always a joke in my mind that like she started making the clones because she just couldn't stand hanging around with picture chow by herself for the rest of eternity.
Poor Joe, even in death.
This is just me screenshotting my trauma as I'm experiencing it. That's just that. Was the choice, so Watcher being blinded, obviously there's a poetry there. There's a, Watcher not being able to watch is definitely the strong thing there. But was there any point where Nowhere took a finger or Nowhere took a disarmed Watcher?
I think it had to be the eyes. There was something nice and mythical about it, right? Always.
And from a gameplay perspective of like literally losing the vision was also strong.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I think specifically there was some thought sometimes where it's like after she gets blinded in chapter 7, I think there was some ideas thrown around about how to depict that. And I remember we leaned very heavily on just like, no, it's just dark. It's dark. And like maybe there's a little bit of color because like, yeah.
Yep. That's fair. Oh, actually, I don't have a screenshot from it, but I wanted to ask about it. The live action sequence in Hong Kong. Was that always like... Was that footage you just happened to grab? Like, did you go to Hong Kong for that purpose? And sort of was that...
No.
Okay.
No, so we... that was footage from a different project where we shot in Hong Kong. It was a whole other film. And I think at the end of chapter 7, it was a pretty desperate move because I was like, oh, we knew we were going to depict the very first communion. What's the very first communion? And, I remember making something, beginning to make something in Unity, and then just being like, oh, fuck this. I can't do this. and so I was like, you know what? I'm going to go, usually at this point you think about things that you have that exist or ways out. And that was a way out for sure. And we knew that like, one of the, beyond shooting the film there, one of the reasons why we went and shot so much footage was that we wanted to have this, forever, I guess, this footage. And so there was so much footage that was unused from that film. And it gets to kind of like that film itself did not come out, or we finished it and we showed it a little bit, but then we had to kind of put it away for various reasons. And so it's interesting that film gets to live on in this game a little bit now. So
I assume all the footage came from pre 2020.
Yes. Yeah.
Was it sort of bittersweet to sort of revisit that and repurpose it, or was it sort of a?
It was, because I think one of it's interesting because we shot that stuff in 2017, and at the time is like, well, let's go edit this and release this in 2018 or 2019, but now I'm realizing, the year is 2025 and the film is still sitting around, kind of gestating, I guess. Not just it was just like, I don't know, being pickled,
aging like a fine wine.
It's
back to the wine conversation.
It's like much of what is shot in that film no longer exists now. So or activities that were being done in that film can no longer be done and or are no longer done. So it was kind of
Haunted by
a little bittersweet, for sure.
Also love this sequence. I also really enjoyed a lot of the plane imagery that kept repeating, especially with the parallels between the grandmother and the mother, and the the leaving home and not returning. I thought that was super powerful. And this first sequence where you finally get to see an unmasked Watcher as well.
Oh yeah, right.
Which was just
Cookie.
so good, just so good, just chills.
Oh, thanks.
And again, finally, like Watcher getting to lay down and have it. Like I was like, girl, finally.
This is like a Discord emote now or something, right?
Yes, it is an emote in the Sunset Visitor Discord, which you should join if you haven't already.
Oh yeah, right.
I'm gonna speed along a little bit to the end here. Hi, Noah. Hi, Fixer. Here's a better view of Fixer's helmet. Is that? I didn't actually notice this till now. Is that Fixer's helmet is like damaged? And hasn't been repaired.
Yeah.
I do enjoy. Was that like a purposeful choice to be like Fixer is focused so much on fixing things around her, she's not fixing her own suit?
Yeah. That, and then also she's seen some shit that she doesn't want to talk about.
I really enjoyed this sequence because I just loved racing around as Secretary.
That was a like
Secretary
the 11th.
is Colin's favorite character.
Yeah, like a 11th hour, like I remember just like we were trying to figure out the ending, and it was very brutal, as I mentioned before. And then just kind of peeking into the part of the office and being like, "Can we have a secretary controller? Can we do that? Like how? Like just really like it's just a very simple one. Like is it difficult?" And our programmer Nicole was like, "It can be done. It can be. Let's do it." And so and then like playing a secretary was actually was a lot more fun than I thought it would be.
It was fun. It was I enjoyed the little bit of joy near the end. Of
It's like one more. It was a thing where we kept talking about this. It's like, oh, we love pulling rabbits out of our hats, and like, but like we're running like we can't slack on the last chapter. Like we have to keep doing it somehow. and I guess the secretary controller is one of them.
So we're getting up. This screenshot is one of my favorite shots in the game, because was it purposeful to sort of finally show, because the Watcher stabbing Iris happens in the very beginning of the game. It's the first like 10 seconds of your trailer, often. It is not a spoiler. It is a moment that you're like, am I being spoiled? And you're like, no, this is just the tip of the iceberg. But we finally get to see that moment from Iris's perspective in the shot. Was that always purposeful to sort of rhyme that? Like the first time we see it, we see it mostly from. We see it from a third person perspective of like we don't necessarily know who these characters are and what's happening, and then we see it through Watcher's eyes as she actually goes and does this, and then finally we see it through Iris's eyes. Was that always supposed to have that? Connection between those?
I think this is again something that came out of our process where it's like we had made chapters 1 to 5 chronologically or sequentially, and then we had decided that we would cold open with chapter 5 and we didn't know that we would do that like until we did it, and that kind of made an opportunity for us also to bookend the game with the murder again. In fact, like again and then again and again and again and again and again. And I think like that was a nice opportunity that emerged because of some decisions made. And I think actually this scene happening at the end again and kind of actually being a conversation between secretary and the occupant, using them as kind of these like puppets to restage. I think that was a real break for us. We were like, oh yeah, we were able to break something, like break in the sense of like land something as we were writing it or thinking about it, because it was very difficult to understand how to do all the things the last chapter does or tried to do, which is like, yes, talk about the occupants, also deal with what is immediately happening in the orchard, also resolve this, or not resolve, but or at least complicate it one more time thematically, and depict that with almost no new assets or no new, any of that stuff.
That's game dev. Baby.
Yeah, and then, and being very strategic about what we needed to add. And one of the things we added was the secretary controller.
Also, sorry, I'm now dark. This is a sign that
sorry,
the stream should end soon as I'm plunged into darkness. There we go. We'll overhead that one.
So like all of that was very difficult to achieve, but like I think making those decisions about the murder prior in the game really opened us up to the opportunity, unbeknownst to us at the time, of being able to make this kind of work.
So you talked about, we're kind of reaching the end clearly as I'm reaching the end of my screenshots here. Because you talk about asset reuse, which I think you guys did expertly. It comes across as not indie devs trying to stretch a budget. It comes more across as, things rhyming and themes being carried forward and, certain imagery being displayed again and again for impact. But then you chose to sort of have an entirely new environment at the end here. This first-person perspective, these sort of back alleys. Where does this take place? Is it? My mind immediately goes to Old Town. My mind immediately goes to even those Vancouver street shots or the Hong Kong street shots. Is there sort of like in your head? Is this sort of just like a negative space that sort of exists between all those cityscapes, or is it sort of a actual purposeful place that this takes place in?
So, in terms of like canonically, like it does takes place kind of strangely outside of time and space, right? But like, much of the architecture is very directly referencing or modeled after the Kowloon Walled City stuff, which is was its own self-governing like city-state full of things and all of this stuff.
You don't know the kind of like a very dense city thing.
Very dense space.
Yeah.
And also I know that there was like many games that are obsessed with Kowloon Walled City and depict the aesthetics of it, and I kind of wanted to see it in a way, like to bring it. Or just to be like, okay, well, ground it back into these, the people, put the people back into the architecture, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I think there's the Kowloon City, especially, and we see it in games like. Even like a game like Cyberpunk 2077, where urban environments where you don't really consider the human element. It's just like, look how cool dense city is. Isn't that neat? Cyberpunk?
It's a classic kind of situation where I guess it's classic now that like Cyberpunk leans on a lot of Asian influence, Well, I should say, I should go back up and say that yes, it does. I guess even some of the earliest texts, but then also as it progressed, it became even more solidified in some quite iconic films. Like Blade Runner is a very iconic version of this, and then that gets taken on and propagated and twisted and so on and so forth, and then you eventually start seeing those spaces, but you don't see. You see these Asian dense spaces, but you don't see Asian people in them. And so, evoking this particular imagery was, at least at this point in the game, was also being like, okay, well, here's an opportunity to do that. And yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Any opportunity to sort of again put the human back in the experience. I think it was a great way to ground this. Yeah, I love this shot. I love this whole sequence. I mean, Natalie, you and I talked about this on stream, but like, I don't have the lived experiences of Iris or of her mother, or my own relationship with my mother looks very different. But I loved experiencing this sequence because it was so eye-opening, and because it was so I knew it felt cathartic to someone, whether it was the person who wrote it or the person or somebody who's playing it, or it's for Iris herself or for her mother. Like it felt like I was watching someone's catharsis, and that was really interesting to experience. Was that sort of part? Sorry, Natalie?
I was just going to say, it's like the first time that they talk with each other instead of at each other.
Yeah.
I think.
Was that ever an intention with the game to sort of have this moment of catharsis for, like, did you want a player to finally be like, oh, I can finally see myself, or finally see an experience I've had, or finally being able to, process an emotion that I maybe didn't get to process, like especially pandemic related, process something that I didn't get to process without this game.
Sorry, as a game as a whole, this particular?
I mean, both the sequence and the game as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, I think this series of sequences, which I guess we call the impossible conversations. I think it was very formally led. Like, I think our brain goes that way, or at least my brain goes this way, where it's like, okay, well, what's an opportunity here? And the opportunity here is that you can get any version of the characters from any point in time, pluck them from space and time, and then get them to talk to each other and create interesting scenes out of that. And largely that's what we did. I think we had like 35 of them, of which we only have we show 5 in the game.
Where are the other 30?
Oh yeah, there is one with Bobo in it upstairs. Which I was sad to cut. I was talking about this the other day. I was like sad to cut because Bobo the hamster does introduce himself as
What's
Bobo.
Bobo in there?
I we don't actually know, so I don't. But like
Bobo was a girl.
As Bobo Kwan, which I thought was funny. But so yeah, that's for this question. It's like, really like thinking what would be, as I said before, like generative. Like, how can we be generative here? And this is like really a blank check to the writers to be like, okay, anything can happen. Make it good. Let's make it good. We can have any version of any character talk to each other.
Did Pinky write the scene?
Yes, this one. Yeah, Pinky worked on much of the impossible conversation scenes, and then it was called and edited as we were implementing. Right. So, in terms of the entire game, I guess there's always something to be said about any type of art. One of the things we commonly say internally is like, we want to avoid being too didactic, right? because, like, to a degree, I don't always believe that that is the purpose of art itself. And if you want to be didactic, art is perhaps the worst medium to do that in, because you might as well make a tweet or something, right? And because there's so many ways in which this could be misinterpreted if you're trying to say one thing, and really it's about having, in my mind, it like activating the possibility to think about things in different ways, and that's one of the interests of it. So yeah, I think in everything that we did before and in this game, our desire is not to be like, oh, this is this one particular thing we want to say or do or whatever. It's really a constellation of things that and how they are kind of interacting with each other, that sometimes it's hard for us even to encompass or think about. Like, that's why the ending was so hard. One of the reasons why the ending was so hard. But like you kind of get to a place where it like grows to where it's very even difficult for you to track, and then you have to follow some of your own instincts through it. Yeah.
That makes sense. Was there ever a point at the ending? Was there ever a point that you sort of was just like, we're going to do a canonical ending, and we're just was there always a plan to do player choice at the end?
Yeah. Well, it was a thought for a long time, and I think one of the desires at the end was perhaps also me being a little bit sentimental. Was that we didn't want it to play out exactly like an ending, but we wanted it to be full of new beginnings. And because in so much, like, it's trying to be like honest and loyal to itself, the game, in that like throughout the game it's always trying to be like, as you said, like, oh, I don't know what 1000 times this is, it's going to do this, and now it's going to do that, it's going to do this. And to be honest with itself, I wanted it to do it again even at the end. And so and that may not give you the most concrete information about everything, but that it gets to be true to itself and does it again, and that it wants to be what's the word for it, to enjoy the telling of itself. So
well, we're at the end here, clearly, as I sort of hit these last screenshots from the ending. Thank you both for joining me for this chat, for this extended chat. I'm sorry for chatting with you for 2 hours. Yeah, sorry to anyone on stream if my audio was low. OBS was lying to me and said it was good the whole time, so that's fine. Luckily we're all, if it's quiet enough, I can just kind of boost everything up in the archive when this goes up. Won't be too bad to do. I'll edit video. It's fine. I'll do it. I'll open After Effects and do it. You guys just announced console ports, which is very exciting. Do you have any other call to action? Community manager here, Natalie. Do you have any other call to actions that you want to shout out at the end here?
Well, yeah, so yesterday we announced the console ports and Game Pass, as well as additional localizations, which a lot of fans have been asking for, both of those things. So we're really happy to have been able to finally reveal that. It's been a little hard to sit on it because, like, sometimes we'll make totally, unrelated tweets, and someone will be like, what about translations? I'm just like, they're coming. I wish I could tell you that they are, but now we get to say that in the open. So yes, we announced that. Next week we have something not as big but exciting. So
that was decided just before we got on there.
Yeah. So like we have many things in the pipeline. a lot of upcoming merch.
Yes, yeah, we got a
and
question from chat that it was, do you guys have more merch coming?
We do.
There's some really fun things.
Some really fun things. Yesterday, I was finalizing with Pinky, one of my favorites, and I think it's going to be a real treat for people. Um, we're in
I
the middle
was,
of finalizing other merch,
oh
and
yay!
yeah.
I kept saying through my playthrough that I needed to make a Fixer was right T-shirt. I still need to follow up on that threat
So
because
true.
I do believe Fixer was right the whole time,
So
except
true.
for one particular instance with Watcher, but otherwise Fixer was pretty much on the ball the whole time.
If you make it, let us know,
Yeah,
okay? Well,
absolutely. Yeah.
but yeah, and so yeah, I think the future of the studio is pretty bright, and that's very exciting to me as someone who's a fan first, like who became a fan first, and then now is like now working here. Just a lot of things that I'm like. It's so crazy to do for a living, like marketing one of my favorite games of all time. So like the things that we have in the pipeline that are exciting, like they're exciting to me, so I feel like they're gonna be exciting to the fans. So just be patient, things are on the way. And yeah, like thank you so much to everyone who's been in chat, everyone who came from the Discord. Our Discord community is so wonderful, and we have some of the best mods that we could ever hope to have as a studio. All the attention that we've gotten on socials has been really great. We've gotten some really fantastic press coverage from yesterday's announcement. Release date announcements are quite hard to land in editorial sites, but we got a lot of coverage, and so we're very happy. Yeah, just excited to see all the enthusiasm for this game, this far along after it's been released. I think that is quite rare and speaks to the lasting impact of Remy and everyone's work. So, yeah, exciting
Yay.
things are coming.
I also noticed, forgot to mention, but Very Okay Vinyl was in the chat earlier as well, so I'm very excited for the vinyl.
Right.
Yeah, very excited for the
Yeah.
vinyl to come out, which is supposed to be this month, I think. I remember it being October. Same with the zine, the fan zine, which is also super exciting. Blue Communion. Those are both really. You guys, yeah, have a fantastic fan community. It's like if
They're really great.
Natalie, I'm
Yeah.
a little jealous. Like if I was to be community manager for a fan base, can't almost
Seeing
do
all the
better.
fan art is
Yeah.
incredible. Is incredible.
The Remy, have you read? Are there AO3 fanfics? Have you read any? Have you gone down that dark, brightly lit path?
I can't say one way or another.
That's the safe answer. I understand it. Excellent. Okay, I think we can wrap up there. I should also do. I should say this has been hosted by Silverstring Media, another Vancouver developer. We're working on a game called Green Hearth Necromancer. It is a game where you play as a necromancer who has inherited a co-op apartment from her grandmother, who has sadly passed. And you spend it's basically a semi-idle gardening game. You grow plants. When they inevitably die, you use magic to raise them into undead versions. But there's also a full narrative. We have Lindsay, who worked on I Was a Teenage Exocolonist, doing our story. So there's also a very, you meet the fellow residents of the building and get to know them. And there's a little guy called Compostifer who's very like, if you ever watched Howl's Moving Castle, it's very Calcifer style. A little grumpy old man who I imagine is Scottish in my head. Also like Drippy from Ni no Kuni is the other thing I have in my head as a reference. Yep. Very excited for that. We did a demo during Game Garden, and we have a public demo coming soon. We don't actually have a date, but it's like I can play it. I'll play it on stream soon, so people can see it soon. I can play it. You guys can't. Sorry, that's dev privilege. And then I'm also going to announce that my next game that I'm going to play for these indie streams is going to be Old Skies by Watch It Eye. Which is a time-traveling adventure game. I really enjoyed Unavowed, which was one of their last ones, so I'm excited to dig into their new one.
Came out recently, right?
It did. I think it was a this year release, maybe.
Yes.
What's time? When is time in game releases?
It is time. Probably not the dev to ask, since there's so many time jumps.
That's the thing. You know what? I'll also shout out. I mean, Natalie, you and I both work for other studios as well. I will shout out Soft Rains. I'm also working on Ambrosia Sky. We just announced our release date as well for November 10th. And you're at Natalie, you're at Black Tabby, right?
I am at Black Tabby, which are the makers of Slay the Princess and Scarlet Hollow. For Sunset Visitor, I do both marketing and dev stuff, but for Black Tabby, I just do like marketing and communication stuff. If you've seen the TikToks, that is me. And if you're in our server of 36,000 people and counting,
wow,
I manage that. So,
damn.
But it's a great joy to do. So I love those communities. So I'm very happy.
Excellent. I think we'll call it there. Again, thank you everyone for chatting. Thank you all for the questions. Thank you guys for talking about 1000xRESIST. This is like retroactively my game of the year. I did not play it the year it came out, but now,
thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It is a beautiful work of art. And
I really want to plug. Sorry.
No, please. I mean,
I'm so sorry. It's going to be so inane. I didn't. Sorry, I thought you had ended. Can you please continue?
I was just trying to summon the words of how I feel about 1000xRESIST, but please do your plug. I'll think.
Oh God, it's going to be so stupid now. I was just going to say, like, I know you played it on PC, but if you wanted to play it again on PS5,
the haptics are good.
He's so proud about the haptics.
No, I'm not. I think it's more just that, like,
they're cool.
It's so. Anyways, yeah. Okay.
No, finish that thought.
No, the haptics are my favorite thing about this generation of consoles. So it's like, I think it'll be fun to see some of these sounds coming from the controller and all the various things. I think it adds a lot.
Yeah, it's generally going to be really
Do you
cool.
do the thing that like the secretary talks to the controller? Does the Ghost in Destiny do that? I know.
We do have the secretary sound emit from the controller when it comes from and other things that I won't say.
Excellent. Surprises.
Yeah. So play it on PlayStation.
Yeah. But I'm so sorry that I got in the middle of you. You were trying to find something. I know, and I'm just it's like, hey, but the haptics.
No, the haptics are important. I understand.
And literally, he went into the Discord yesterday, and he replied. All that he did was reply to someone and say, "Whispers, but haptics," and then he used the tuxedo mask like GIF of like, "My job here is done," and.
Amazing.
Yes.
But thank you, Colin. That really means a lot to us. I really am.
Yeah. No, yeah. I was gonna say I've been in this industry long enough, and played a variety. Like I've written about games before, and it's something 1000xRESIST lives in that same echelon of Disco Elysium, Life is Strange, Heaven Will Be Mine, Florence. These games that really stick with you long after you finish them for whatever reason. And I think in this case, it's a lot of being able to experience perspectives I don't necessarily experience in games or in life. And I think you told a beautiful story, beautifully heartbreaking story, that it's as moving as it is sad. And it's bittersweet. And that's not a tone that is easy to accomplish.
Thank you so much. That means a lot to us. And it's still wild to think that any of that is some things that people experience from it. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. I tried to end the stream 3 times before. Now we're ending. Thank you everyone for watching. I'm going to click the thing that changes our scene to the one that says thank you for watching, and then we'll be done. Thank you, folks.
Thank you to everyone in chat. Thank you,
folks.
Colin.
The archive will be up either tomorrow or Monday, so look out for that. Okay. See you, folks.
Bye.